Hey, what's good, people, man? Platinum Bearded Dread. By the way, man, don't let the clouds or the blue sky fool you, man. It's cold, man. So I got this big jacket on. But anyway, man, just a question. This is for those of us who have children or were once children. I guess that means all of us, right? What's the where's the answer to parenting? You know, and as parents, where do we get it wrong? Where did we get it wrong? Or as children, where do we think our parents got it wrong? Quote unquote. Why am I even saying that, man? This morning, my son was starting a new venture, if you like, school. And he was already in a nervous state, anxious state. And it's not a new thing. That's something we've been dealing with. And sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But on this particular occasion, where he was due to start a fresh new school, fresh like, because he's been there once before, a couple of times, he had a complete meltdown, anxiety meltdown, and started flinging things, and then he ended up saying, I said to him, you know what, son, if you think this is going to continue, you're gravely mistaken, because I can get angry too, because I'm not the type to get angry. And even if you hate me, this thing's going to stop. And I'm not talking so much about the fear, because that's something that's real, but I'm just talking the disrespect level. And I said, this is going to stop. Even if you hate me, this is going to stop. And he turned around and said, I do hate you. And it was interesting because he never said that before, never. I roughed him up a little bit. When I say rough him up, I don't mean smack him around. That's not my way. That's for another post. But I did have to sternly grab him, put him in a corner, But those words, I do hate you, kind of started resonating around my skull, man, because he never ever said anything like that before. But the truth for me, those words didn't really affect me, because it's almost like, he's 12. So he's going through that stage, a lot of them do hormones and stuff. And then couple that with the anxiety. That didn't really, it hit me a little, but not much. I think what hit me harder was the fact that he's helpless, and as a parent, you want to help him, but you can't, because there's certain things children have to do on their own. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse as a parent seeing a child helpless, whether that be in hospital or, whatever the case may be. And you can help them, but you can't walk the journey for them. And that, to me, was more painful than those words, because those words, you know what I mean? But then also, it's the idea that that if you allow that line to be crossed, especially as a man to a young man, to a boy, there ain't no going back. And you're going to ruin him as a son or a daughter, but in this case, as a son. And you're going to have to assert your strength. And I don't mean in a macho kind of, bullish, no, but showing what a man is in all his facets. The gentle side, which he sees more than often, more than little, but also the strong side, the stern, solid side, because he needs it, even if he doesn't like it. So it was difficult balancing that, because despite what he said, I can't soften up and just let this return to normal simply because he's upset and sad, whatever. This has got to be something that he sees from here on that he's never seen before in me. But it's a balancing act between the gentle and the firm, Maybe it's different for mothers with sons or mothers with daughters, but as a man, it's very important, because also it will determine how he responds to stress outside of the house, or how he responds to authority outside of the house. And let's face it, right? Police, they don't really have much of a good reputation in this country, the UK or America, and other parts of the world. And all it takes for them is a little bit of aggression, particularly in young black men, and for whatever reason, that's a threat, and that's enough to take it to the extreme, i.e. in America, young black men getting shot for even saying nothing, you know, or beaten up in a police cell, which is something that happens in the UK, you know, and even killings have been happening at the hands of police in the UK. But it's something that, as a black man and a young black boy, as a father, it has to be dealt with at home before that behaviour goes out into the big world. But it's not easy, man. But for those who are parents, I think what's important is that we give them room to be themselves. Don't try to make them into little versions of us, because they're not. They do have our DNA, etc. So there will be parts of our personality that are directly from us or their mother. But what we can't do is make them into us, and by doing that curtail their freedom, you know. And if I'm really honest, as a child, I was a little bit nervous around bullies, and the idea that I was bullied once, but that's another post. But the idea of having to deal with that, you know, I went quiet into my shell, and I'd always be like apprehensive if things got confrontational. And I did martial arts a little bit here and there, but we couldn't really afford it, so it wasn't something that was consistent. And I always wished that my dad, who wasn't really around that much, to be honest with you, or my mum, so she was there, would push me into something like boxing or stuff like that. And then years later, I did a few classes of boxing here and there, but I never stayed the course. And now, years later, I'm seeing my son, one of my sons, with the same, you know, personality, in a sense that he's got an angry streak which I had, and it got me in a lot of trouble in school. But he's also got the side that's very gentle and that's quite intimidated by, you know, overbearing youngsters, to the point that bullying has been an issue at school. And now I'm trying to put him in boxing. You know what I mean? To erase the kind of problems I had, because no one put me in boxing. And I've been pushing it since he was, I don't know, 7, and then give it a break and come back a couple of years later. And Dev said he's very good at it. And he's very naturally very good at it, but you know what I mean? He doesn't like it, or doesn't want to go. Maybe it's an anxiety thing. But anyway, then I had to ask myself, am I pushing him because I'm seeing myself in him? Or am I pushing him because, you know, he needs it? The exercise, the getting out of your frustration, self-defense, which one is it? And I had to step back and say, oh, maybe we have to revisit this again sometime in the future. But it goes back to what I'm saying, that we can't afford to try to mold our children to us. And yes, there is a thin line when you cross it in terms of disrespect. And that's something as a parent never have, never have, even if you have to chuck them out of the house, because it's for them more than it's for us. But at the same time, recognise that they're individual beings, man, and they need that freedom to be able to express themselves. And more importantly, or just as importantly, the world we're living in now is very different to how we were. You know, I've never heard of such thing as a lockdown, you know, going on a year plus. So we don't really know what kind of effect it's having on them now, let alone in years to come. So we've got to take all them things on board and not look at, you know, one of the mistakes I always make to my son is, yeah, I know how you feel, son, because I was there as a child once myself. And he'll turn around and say, yeah, but things were different back then. And I'll say, yeah, but the experience is the same, the time might change, but the truth of the matter is, maybe he's right. You know, being locked down and not being able to see your friends for a year plus, or not understanding why you've been locked down in the first place. So we just have to step back as parents and try to put ourselves in the shoes and the mindset of our children, so that way we can look at the world through their eyes. You know, rather than assume that just 'cause we were children, that we understand completely. And I can't stress enough the importance of letting them be creative and expressive in their, you know, what makes them happy. Even if it makes us uncomfortable. It's really important, even if it's something that we don't agree with. As long as there's no disrespect, you know, to elders and of course their family, allow them to explore. Regardless of whether we question it, we don't like it, allow them to explore. Anyway, I hope this helps, man. Still in reflective mode, you know. Platinum Bearded Dread. Tells upon the bench step. Yeah, man.